What's going on, sports card hobby family? I know what you're thinking. Before we get into the main topic of the hobby clearly dying.
School's closed. It's a holiday, you dumbasses.
Whoa.
And possibly a new SGC Slab coming. I know many of you baseball fans, especially with the season right around the corner, you are thinking, man, can we get a baseball prospect that is worth collecting? Can we get someone that we can actually get behind, get excited about? Well, that person is here, my friends, and he is my son. Varsity baseball player, his loving dad made him a highlight tape to pass over to some of the coaches that have requested it. Do we have that, Frank? Do we have it or don't we? And so rest assured, everything is going to be fine. I know after you watch that, you're thinking, man, when is this guy going to have a baseball card? I fully expect Michael Rubin to be landing the private jet somewhere nearby my backyard here shortly to get that exclusive signing deal in place with Topps. All right, guys, what are we talking about here today? The hobby dying. We see this a lot kind of in the comments section. You guys get mad at me because I plop it into a YouTube title. I kind of mix around the words and it gets people fired up. Guys, that's just internet marketing. That's just how it works. That's how the YouTube machine works. No matter what industry we're talking about or what category, that's just how it goes. Before I go further, huge thanks to today's video sponsor, DC Sports 87. You might want to sell on eBay, but you don't want to deal with the shipping and the packing and the listing. Who does? So I just shoot it all off to DC Sports 87. They set it all up for me. 1 business day turnaround time when I request payment. Easy peasy. And we are off to the races. Check out DC Sports 87. I'll admit I was wrong here. I was wrong. I thought for sure that card grading, card shows, card shops, I kind of just thought the whole deal would really slow down as we headed into the back half of 2023 and into 2024. We know that card shows in particular, they always slow down as we get to like the holidays, Thanksgiving time and after. That end of November, December time frame is usually pretty slow, and it was this past year because that's how it always is. But the thing I didn't think would happen is that card shows would continue to truck along. We have been talking about hard economic times, recession type stuff, which granted, we are kind of entering into, we're now kind of playing chicken with it right now. We are right in the throes of it where it looks like we could, depending on what happens with the Federal Reserve, are they going to hold rates? How long are they going to hold rates? The pressure is going to really start mounting. The economy is showing signs of slowing down in North America. There's a lot of kind of forward-looking folks that are like, eek, it might not be smooth here if there's not some sort of a shift in policy. The Federal Reserve is going to try to do everything it can to hold the line there to keep inflation down without sinking the economy. It's kind of that game of chicken that everybody's playing right now. But anyways, even with this, even with kind of still in a time of uncertainty, this is not a bullish market. I know the stock market will tell you otherwise. I know you'll look at the stock portfolio and you're thinking like, man, it can only go up from here. But the truth is that we are in uncertain times. That's just the reality. We don't really know what's coming around the corner. There's some question marks. But man, it has not slowed anybody down from going to card shows and participating in the sports card hobby. It is absolutely clear that this thing is resilient. And you do kind of wonder, we talk about this all the time on the channel, as this being an escape for people. And I do kind of wonder if, regardless of whatever your budget is, if you're spending $20 a month on cards or you're spending $20,000 a month on cards, there has to be an element with the collectibles hobby, whether we're talking about cards, comic books, action figures, whatever that thing is that you're into, coins, whatever, that is a release from your regular everyday problems or issues. And that is showing strong. Neo posted a picture. I think he's at the SHIP show here in the Midwest, and it is slammed. My Raleigh show here locally where I am last weekend, I missed it unfortunately. I was out of town, but that Raleigh show is the busiest that I've seen it. going back 3, 4, 5 years. Even with, again, prices moving down on a lot of cards going back for a couple of years. But I think that has been really it's catapulted everything to where people are like, all right, I can actually afford singles for stuff. I can get in on certain players. I can have a good time in the hobby without paying absolutely exorbitant stimulus money type prices. You're actually at a point where you can go and enjoy yourself. New product is still too expensive. We talk about it all the time, but there are kind of those budget new products as well where you can get in on them if you really want to open packs, or you can just open Junk Wax era packs and that can be just as fun. That's what I do. Open up 89 Pro Set Football and try to find Barry Sanders and Troy Aikman rookie cards. There are different price points here to where everybody can participate. And man, it does tell me when I look at card show attendance that people want a break from everyday life. This channel, for me, a lot of this channel is a break from everyday life. It's me that I can get to goof around on here for 10 minutes, hang out with you guys for a few minutes a day, and it's just kind of a nice break from everyday life. And it's clear from card show attendance that is the case. There is absolutely zero doubt about that at all. It hasn't slowed down, and I was wrong. I thought that it would. I thought that it would slow down to some degree from where we were at the National going back at the end of July. That was an insanely slammed National out there in Chicago. I thought, hey, you know what? It's going to start to kind of just taper off. I was completely wrong there. All right, I think this was on Twitter where I saw this, and I have to give credit. I think it's tiffanycards.com or Tiffany Cards. Anyway, I'll put a picture up. But they have kind of like what could an SGC slab look like in the near future or in the future or whatever. And they've got, the SGC slab now with the tux. And then they've got kind of a SGC PSA inspired slab where it's basically the same. It looks to me like it's the same size as a PSA slab. And then the actual label, the flip, looks exactly like a PSA one, except it says SGC instead of PSA kind of in the hologram part there in the middle. So here's the thing with that. The one kind of knock that I'll get from people that actually like SGC, they like the grading, or even people that don't like it, they'll say, you know what, it's a little bit bulky, the actual size of the slab itself, the average size. And I don't think that it would be a terrible thing to have the sizes be exactly the same as the PSA slab. When you look at cases, when you look at, people just trying to handle them, if they were exactly the same size, you didn't have to have a different case to fit in the SGC or the PSA, the BGS. If there was uniformity to it, but it was just an SGC slab, I don't think that would be bad at all. I do think that they should keep the tux label though. That's where we disagree. So I'm somewhere in the middle of this thing that Tiffany Cards posted. I like the idea of it being the same slab. Maybe it's even the same material as the PSA slab that they use, but I like the tux label. Keep the tux label, but it's just in that little bit of a smaller slab just so that it's all kind of uniform. I think that would actually be pretty cool. And I think for a lot of people that might be on the outside looking at SGC like, oh, I like the company. I know the grading is fantastic. Service, everything is there. But having the same size slabs and just having that uniformity, I think could be a positive thing. I've talked about this as well with them. I know there is a lot of speculation, and there should be. There should be a lot of speculation when you've got this sort of a move. It's a massive business move, and one that a lot of people didn't see coming this way. Maybe they thought SGC might be purchased, but not necessarily from collectors. So that was an interesting twist. But everything that I feel right at this second is that they are going to stay SGC brand. I think that they're going to keep everything the way that it is. Maybe it is that 2, 3, 4 years down the road, there's a change made. But it just would make sense to me, given the history of these companies and how far they go back. I know that there's a lot of PSA people that don't necessarily want to recognize that there's brand loyalty with SGC, but there's long time brand loyalty going back. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense for PSA to roll this into PSA and call SGC PSA, and it's, South Beach PSA or whatever, the Boca Raton PSA. To me, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It makes way more sense to me to keep it exactly the way that it is, keep Pete running SGC, keep it all the same, and just work together, have all the technology working together, and keep SGC its own brand. That's just what makes total sense. There is brand loyalty with SGC. There are a lot of people that respect the grading, they respect the product, they respect the turnaround times, and so forth. I can go on and on. You have to remember that a lot of the SGC folks, people that grade with SGC, they are a PSA alternative. It's for people that, hey, they don't necessarily want to grade with PSA. SGC, a great alternative, excellent graders. And so even though Collectors owns both companies, It just, to me, makes sense in the long run to keep them both separate the way that they are. Now, will that happen? I don't know. We've talked about this over the last few days. But hey, look, if they make some changes to the slabs, make them more uniform, if they, work together on technology, Nat Turner was talking about how they want to work together to stop fraudulent stuff and counterfeit cards. But hey, if these grading companies are working together to stop BS, stop fraudulent activity, and stop counterfeit cards from coming through, as the consumer, I know a lot of consumers and a lot of talking heads will say like, oh man, now we've got one company that owns 85% of the market share of grading. That's terrible for the consumer. On the one hand, yes, from a competition standpoint, sure, I can understand your point. However, there are benefits, and this could be a benefit. And again, nobody will talk about that because it's not sexy to talk about, hey, this could actually be a good thing in certain ways. But I actually think there could be some positives that come out. Again, we've got to see how it shakes out. But I'm going to stick to, until I see or hear differently or get a feel for something different, then I'm going to think that this is going to be two separate brands, exactly what they said, until we know anything more. And I don't, and again, I'm in that camp that 2-3 years down the road, it's still going to be PSA and SGC. It just doesn't make sense. If we're going to make a comparison, Louis Vuitton and Gucci, in the fashion world, it doesn't make sense for Louis Vuitton to buy Gucci and make it all Louis Vuitton. It makes more sense for it to be two separate brands. That's the way that it should go, even if the parent company of Louis Vuitton owns both. That's all I've got today, my friends. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later. Say bye, Alf. Or just sit there.